having gone through your experience of learning, and the reason I want to touch on this, I just think it's important because a lot of people are like I said, are in different stages of their journey. I know some people who listen to this podcast, they're parents. Some people are folks who are graduating high school or graduating college and trying to figure out what they want to do next in their life. So I guess in terms of what would you recommend someone who wants to pursue knowledge, right? What would you say to a parent who has a child that's young and they want to put their kid possibly put this kid through that experience? And what would you say to someone who's maybe a young adult and they're looking to grow and develop in terms of knowledge themselves? Like, what would you recommend?
We hit all age groups, huh?
Let's hit them all.
That's a good question. I don't know if I have the best answer. I have a answer.
Just your answer,
Yeah. For parents, for kids, it's really interesting because I think, when elementary or preschool, before that, I think it's more about play learning, right? So we have a program where we teach kids after school. The little kids, they have a book that they use, but it's very about 4 sentences max on that whole page.
Right.
So I think at that age, it's very different. It's more about just getting them to love the prophet, love the prophets, love the companions. So I think storytelling is really big, for kids.
Okay.
Kids love stories. You tell a kid a story, they're going to listen. Right? People love stories, right? The Quran, a big chunk of it is stories, right? Because people are attracted to storytelling. Well, what are movies except not telling stories, but just with visual arts? So I think with kids specifically, I think a lot of emphasis on stories and making those names become almost like second nature to them, right, on their tongues, just off the bat. I remember when I was growing up, there was one kid that I knew, man, his parents, they must have had this kid in Islamic studies boot camp because this kid knew all the companions. I mean, I remember when we would have trivia games in our house in our dinner parties. Yeah. But he was just hitting all of them. If it was a family feud for Islamic studies, this kid would have went home with the cash prize. He was just he just knew him. He knew all the companions. He knew the prophet stories. He knew them in and out. Yeah. And that was just a result of his parents just putting emphasis. I remember a lot of my base knowledge for prophet stories comes from my father. Just reading them to me before going to sleep, or just he had these books. I remember we used to just sit around and he used to just read them to us, right? So I think that's how you just build an innate love. It's not with a stick, and it's not with anger. It's just these are cool stories I'm about to tell you. And that kid just grows up idolizing, because you also don't want to turn the prophets or some of the prophets to Superman almost. I remember one scholar talking about it, sometimes we do that to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, that he's so amazing, so great, but he's just from Krypton. I just can't relate to him. And we need to not do that, especially with a kid. You need to make him that that was my prophet, that's your prophet, right? And that's where having a teacher, we have one of our teachers there who's just really great with kids, and she really knows how to speak to them, and she'll twirl around with them. She's talking about the prophet story. She's energetic, and those kids are just having a blast. And I'm sure 10 years from now, they may not remember all the content, but they might remember having good, when those names come up, they probably will associate it with really nice feelings. So that's what I would say for kids. For young adults, specifically, you're talking about college,
I think a lot of people are, at this crossroad in their life right now. They might say, I think I may want to do an Alim program. Maybe I want to pursue memorizing the Quran. Yeah. Maybe I want to study fiqh or whatever, right? And a lot of people think they have to leave the United States and even to do those things or to learn Arabic, right? And a lot of people may even say, well, I have to be able to speak Arabic, in order to be effective. Yeah. I just kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
So I think that's all bogus, because the whole point of being a student of knowledge is you're starting without a base. You're a student, right? I'm still a student. I'm still learning even now. I still have, scholars that I study with privately on the side. It's just, even if you finish an Alamiya course, an 8-year program, a 10-year program, I'm sure anyone who studied it, at the end of my course, in the final year, when I was finally done the course, my conclusion, and I'm not even just saying this just for this, I don't know anything. That was my conclusion. I have just, scratched the surface. Right. And I guarantee you, anyone who's true to themselves, who's gone through even an 8-year whether they went to Azhar or the Medina or Pakistan or, the UK, anywhere. Guarantee you, if they're true to themselves, they'll probably just coming out feeling like, wow, I just need to study more. And honestly, studying, being a student, knowledge can become intoxicating. It can really become intoxicating. Like, you just realize there's just, like, at some point you realize, wow, there's so much you didn't know that you didn't know. There's almost like a double layer. Yeah. Then when you study, it's like, wow, I can like spend 10 years here and I'll probably just get somewhere. But then what about this field, right? Yeah. So I think no one should ever feel like, oh, I need to be at this base already. I think one, you gotta find somewhere to start is what I would say.
Okay.
You don't have to leave the States. Alhamdulillah, I think the Muslim community in America and Canada have set up enough institutions where someone can actually go study. I don't think you need to leave the States anymore. Right. If you want to, great. I think there are benefits to it, but I don't think it's necessary anymore. I think that we have enough programs here. If someone, puts their head down and studies, they can, come out with some quality. And then afterwards, if they want to, further their studies overseas, it's possible. But number two, I would also say, now let's say someone doesn't have the capacity to leave. They're like, I'm going to college, I'm done school, I'm at work. I can't just uproot my life and just go study now 5, 6, 7 years. What does that person do? It's a good question. I think there's quite a few online programs that are available. And honestly, just go to the masajid, make sure there's a scholar that's studied traditionally. This is important. And I think Shaykh Yahya talked about this in the other thing, and I listened to him, and he makes a really good point. It's really important to know where your scholar has studied, right? And I always say, like, just how you do your due diligence when picking your spouse, right? Like, you want to make sure that, they're good, they vibe with you, they're legit, they're not cruel. You want the person that you study Islam, sacred sciences under, to have a similar kind of standard, if not more. Right, because now that person is going to now be an ambassador to you or a translator to you of the Quran and the Sunnah. Like, that's a really big deal when you think about it, right? So you definitely want to know where that person studied, and can they, do they come from a tradition that you can, look up, that you can ask scholars that you trust. So I really think, like, I can speak on this area. Like, there's, alhamdulillah, like, Baltimore has quite a few scholars. Just maybe reaching out, seeing if there's programs anywhere where, their class is taking place, and just start somewhere. Okay. Yeah, that's what I would probably say.